Hey, this is Katrin Davis-daughter, winner of 2015 CrossFit Games, and you're listening to The Expansion Project.
Before we start the show, I want to tell you all about my brand new company that just launched a few weeks ago. It's called BreakParallel.com. This website is pretty much a one-stop shop for all your functional fitness entertainment. If you're looking for videos of your favorite athletes or from your favorite companies, we have you covered. If you're looking for photos of random inspiration for your fitness or just hot fitness chicks, we've got you covered there too. Or if you just want to keep up with all the latest and greatest news that's going on in the functional fitness community, we have you covered there as well. So please bookmark BreakParallel.com. Check it out every day for all the latest updates. Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Expansion Project podcast. I am your host, Fat Tony, and on this show I have casual yet deep conversations with professional athletes, entrepreneurs, coaches, authors, bloggers, investors, musicians, and anybody else that I find to be either just interesting or successful. And my hope is that I will expand my mind through these conversations and yours while motivating and inspiring people along the way. My guest today is Ben Bergeron, one of the most influential and successful CrossFit coaches in the industry. Ben has taken athletes to the top of the podium at the CrossFit Games and has one of the most sought-after online training programs in the community. He is also the owner of CrossFit New England and a driving force behind several companies in the functional fitness industry, including Killcliff, Noble, and Fuel for Fire, just to name a few. During our conversation, Ben had me hanging on every word he was saying. He is super well-spoken and has an incredible amount of knowledge to share. I asked him all about his different businesses, and there's a lot of them, and how he manages his time between those businesses and balances his life with so much going on all the time. We also discussed the economics behind being an elite-level coach for some of the best athletes in the CrossFit sport. Ben even shared his thoughts on some of the most common mistakes that gym owners and coaches make when it comes to their business and their brand. I kind of feel like I say this all the time, but I really do mean it this time. I think this is one of the best interviews I've ever done here on the podcast, and I really think you guys are going to enjoy it and get a lot out of it. Before we jump into the interview, thank you guys for all the positive reviews. Thank you guys for the 5-star ratings on iTunes. And if you want to keep those rolling in, it would mean a lot to me. So please click on the iTunes page, leave the 5 stars, and give a review. And as you guys leave the reviews, I will read some of them here on the show and give you guys a big shout out. Also, thank you for telling a friend and sharing the show on your social networks. That right now is the only way this show is getting spread around. So the more that you guys share it, the more people can get inspired and motivated through the stories and experiences here on the show. Also, please click on theexpansionprojectpodcast.com, and on the right side of the page, we've got a few affiliate links set up for Amazon, Chef Kate's Nut Butter, and Nutrisuma. And if you click on the Nutrisuma one and use the promo code FATTONY1, you will get 20% off all your supplements and protein. That is, again, Nutrisuma.com, promo code FATTONY1. Now I'll welcome my guest. Ben, thank you so much for making the time for me today.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, so just to fill in our guest, I'm going to give a little bit of a background. I don't know you very well at all. I did meet you very briefly. You and I got connected through a close friend of mine named Jordan Samuel, who is a fellow photographer, and he also trains and shoots at your gym, CrossFit New England. So I had the opportunity to meet you very briefly last year when I was out there staying with Jordan, but other than that, we don't really know each other. So this interview is going to be super exciting for me to get to know you and to hear more about all the stuff that you're involved in. So first of all, I know that you, when we were emailing back and forth about setting up this interview, you said you were on vacation, you were with your family, and you didn't want to do the podcast while you're on vacation, which I think is super cool that you're able to separate that family time versus work time and stuff. So I commend you, and I respect that about you for sure. So I'm curious, where did you guys go on vacation, and give me one highlight from that trip?
Sure. So we went to Cape Cod. We're in Boston right now, and Cape Cod's about an hour and a half away. I actually grew up summering on Cape Cod, so my mom still has a house down there. So we went down there with, we're trying to play the weekend warrior thing, but that doesn't really happen until after the games. And then after the games, try to take a week to decompress, bring the family down there. And it was great. We had great weather, a lot of time on the water, on boats, so it was fantastic. A highlight would probably be, I'll give you 2. 3 nights in a row of ice cream and tubing with the kids.
Nice. And so I assume you've got a wife out there, and then how many kids do you have?
A wife and 4 kids.
Oh, wow. Damn. Yeah. So that adds a whole new element to all the stuff that I want to talk to you about, because you're involved with so many different things, which we're going to get into shortly. So very cool. I'm curious as well, on a trip like that, how much are you actually able to disconnect from everything business-wise and work-wise and stuff?
So it's a good question. And it's one that I'm proud to answer, that I'm getting better and better at it. And I actually was able to pretty much disconnect completely from Sunday through Thursday. Didn't even check my email until Thursday night. So that was a big step for me. It's not something I normally do on vacations, but after the games and after that whirlwind and that lead up to it, it was a great kind of escape. So I was able for this one to disconnect really well.
Cool, very cool. So as we're recording this, we're just about 2 weeks past the CrossFit Games. So as you and your athletes are now kind of back on it, I guess my question is, are you and your athletes back on it? So you just had vacation, so I sort of just answered that a little bit. But at what point after the games do you guys start back training for the next season?
Yeah, we start back formally. Everyone starts back in September. So I actually give them the entire month of August, most of part of July, just to do their thing as they want to. Some of them start a little bit earlier and do their own stuff. But my relationship and my coaching role with them doesn't formally start again until September. So it's a month off. Okay,
cool. And just apologies, I do see like a little bit of a lag. Hopefully that's not going to affect our conversation too much. So you give them till September, but do you personally start kind of prepping and starting on their training program earlier than that so that you can have everything ready ahead of time?
Yeah, actually, that kind of prepping never really stops. Okay. It's like even as we're in the games and we're leading up to the games, I'm already thinking about next year. Mm-hmm. Everything is kind of always developing. As the regionals happen back in April and May, you're already thinking about next year's regionals and how you're prepping for your athletes that next year. And mm-hmm. leading up to the games, you're already planning the next year ahead. It's something that there's never really a downtime away from the mental preparation. The actual details of actually writing out programs, I don't do that far in advance because I don't know where my athletes are going to be, so it makes no sense. I've learned that, I don't want to say the hard way, but I've learned that through experience, that I used to write out up to 6 months of programming in advance, and it was all for naught. Like by the time you get 6 days into it, you're a completely different place. So I'm always thinking, I'm always planning, and always strategizing on how the best approach is, but detailed day-to-day programming doesn't happen until most likely a week or two before, but sometimes it's even like day by day. When my athletes come and visit me and train with me on site, I know what I want to cover with them, but I won't know exactly how we're going to format that until I see their energy levels, what their strengths and weaknesses are, how they're feeling that day. So that's something that is actually I used to feel guilty about that. I used to feel guilty about, like, I don't have something ready for them. I don't have – in my head I was like, I don't feel it's right to, but I still felt guilty about it until I heard about some world-class coaches, particularly in like the track and field realm, that don't program. They have an idea, macro, micro cycles, but they don't program specific day-to-day workouts until they actually see their athletes that day.
Interesting.
And that allowed me a lot of kind of it took a little bit of burden off myself and made me feel a little more comfortable with that scenario. And it is truly, having now seen that way work, I know it's a way more successful way to actually train.
Yeah, very cool. So we're definitely going to talk a lot more about coaching and your relationship with your athletes in a little bit. But I want to talk to you about the businesses that you're involved in. Again, I don't know you super well, but I know you're involved in a lot of stuff. And I got a little bit of coaching out from my buddy Jordan, who connected us. So I want to review all the companies that you're involved with and then kind of give me a brief synopsis of what your role is in each of them. So I'll just go down my list, and at the end, we'll see if we're missing out on any. So number one, the Business of Excellence, which is a seminar company that helps small businesses, especially gym owners. So what is your role with that?
I am the owner, founder, CEO. I run the show. It's a small business that I have a couple people helping me out with, but it's basically just what you mentioned. I'll all around different parts of the country and do seminars. We're expanding that company to involve a few other facets where people can come and do an immersion program at our own gym. It's a really short, intensive, internship, apprenticeship, where they actually see behind the scenes on, we kind of open the doors and here's how we run our staff meetings. Here's how we run our classes. Here's how we run our front desk. Here's how we run our online store and inventory. Here's how we run our elements and on-ramp programs, so they can see not only from a lecture standpoint, and I spill it all to the seminar, they can actually see behind the scenes firsthand how it all works as well. So that's something that we're in the midst of rolling out. We've done 2 of those so far, and we're really the fall is kind of our big rollout for that.
Cool. So business number 2, we've got CrossFit New England, which is definitely one of the big ones. So that's your personal gym, your CrossFit affiliate. So did you open and own that? Do you have other partners in that?
Yep. No, it's myself. I own it. We opened that in 2008.
Okay. Moving along, we've got Killcliff, which is a beverage company. I'm not quite sure what your involvement with that one is.
I'm the director of the board of advisors for that company.
And what does that mean to the layperson that is confused by those terms?
I help. I sit in a meeting room and give people ideas on how to run the company better.
Got it. Cool. Okay. So does that give you like equity stake in the company? Does that just kind of a...
Yep, it's an equity position.
Got it. Okay. Then we've got No Bull, which is a shoe company and does a lot of apparel and accessories and stuff.
Correct.
And
yep, for that company, I have an equity stake in that company as well. I'm one of the 3 founders, and I'm kind of for lack of a better term, the athlete and training voice for the brand. There's a business guy, there's a design guy, and then there's me.
Okay, got it. Moving along, it's so funny that this list keeps going and going. We've got Fuel for Fire, which is kind of a protein / food kind of gel pack, little energy packs for athletes.
Yep. And I'm in a very similar position as I am for Fuel for Fire. As I am for Killcliff. I'm on. I have an equity stake, and I'm kind of the guy that sits in the boardrooms and gives them ideas on how to best approach the CrossFit world, community, affiliates, and how to kind of best practices and how to sell to those our own community.
Okay, got it. But not a founding member of that one.
No, not. I was there from day one, but I wouldn't consider myself a founding member.
Okay. Now we've got Competitors Training, which is your online training and coaching and kind of prepping athletes for competition.
Yep, and that's basically I've had some success coaching athletes in the world of CrossFit, getting them to the games and being very successful at the games. I had a lot of interest in people kind of seeing what we were doing, and it was my way of putting out to everybody. I have an online blog that gets about 30,000 hits a day that people can follow along with the training we're doing here. And that is also expanding into a more of a business in the traditional sense, in that we're doing online programming as well for individuals.
Got it. Got one more on my list, the Box HQ, which is kind of a gym software management company that helps gyms, with their members and their scoring and all that kind of stuff.
Yep, and I have an equity stake in that as well. And again, kind of the athlete affiliate gym owner side to helping run that business.
Okay, cool. So did we leave anything out?
I'm opening up a second gym. So CrossFit Tilt is the second one that I'm opening up in Waltham, Massachusetts. It should be doors should be open in November.
Cool. And will that have a similar vibe as CrossFit New England and a similar feel to the community there?
No, I think it'll be different. The CrossFit New England is a unique entity to itself, and the way I've kind of branded that and the way I run it day to day is with the idea of pure, true excellence. I want everything to be as best as it can, the top in the industry. So everything from our front desk staff to our business admins, we have graphic designers, we have everybody in place, and it's something that we pour a lot into. CrossFit Tilt will be smaller, and every one of these affiliates has its own set community. So the feel and vibe of CrossFit New England, which is a little bit more on the, we've defaulted more into the competitive realm, and we're very, into the train for the games. We still have members in every shape, size, and everything else. That's kind of the default is the competitive side. Mm-hmm. I think Tilt is going to take over a very different feel. It's a new space, so we're building it from the ground up. So it's going to be a much, lack of a better term, like much more clean, professional. It's like we're building it for the purpose of CrossFit. Mm-hmm. Where CrossFit New England was an old warehouse that we converted over.
Right. So it has a bit more of that kind of underground, like hardcore, like gritty.
Yeah, right. So I think that it while it'll have a similar feel because it's still me, it's still my coaches. It will definitely be different.
Got it. Okay. Cool. So, did you have any formal business training? Obviously, you're involved heavily with a bunch of different types of businesses. Did you have formal business training before you started taking on all these roles?
The easy answer to that is no. But I did go to school for business, and I think that the head start I had on a lot of people in my younger years was that my dad was a very successful businessman, and he did kind of what I'm doing. He sat on the board of a lot of companies. He would come into companies as a consultant to help them get sold or go public. So he has a really good mindset, and I've learned a lot from him in terms of how to best practices on running businesses, managing people. That's kind of where I get my business sense from, if there is something.
Right. So that's interesting that I asked if you had formal training, but you said no, but you went to school for business. So explain.
I don't think that translates much to anything I'm doing.
Okay.
It's kind of like people that go to school for exercise science, and then they find CrossFit, and they're like, well, there goes those 4 years. Everything I've learned, I spent, before I found CrossFit, I was doing triathlons, up to the level where I was doing a couple Ironman triathlons. I found, fancied myself as one of the fittest people on the planet. Like I could do an Ironman triathlon like that relatively competitively. And then I find CrossFit, and I learned more about fitness in the first 48 hours of finding CrossFit, reading the journal, than I had in the last 48 months doing NASM and NSCA and all these different, the CSCS and all these different certifications I had been through. It's like you learn so much more with this real hands-on practical application, which is CrossFit, than you do learning through a book about muscle spindles and Gogli tendons and cross-filament fibers, which does nothing to improve people's performance. It's the same thing with business, is that you learn all this stuff in practice and all this stuff in school, but it's truly not that applicable until you actually get in the trenches and you start doing it yourself. And you learn just so much more in the first 6 months of being an entrepreneur than you did in 4 or 5, 6, or however long you're going to be doing business training.
Yeah, it's. I've got a little interesting side story for that. A friend of mine in Australia wanted to learn about business, and he asked kind of a mentor of sorts of his that owned a BMX bike riding company, do you think I should go to business school? And he said, no, start a business. If you want to learn about business, start a business. And so he actually opened up an online retail store for bikes and stuff in Australia. And when I met him, or when I kind of connected with him a few years after it had closed down, I was asking about that. I was like, oh, what happened? Did it fail, blah, blah? He's like, no, that whole business was just to learn. So I started it with the intention of learning. He learned what he wanted to learn, and then he closed it because that was the whole point of it all,
That's awesome.
So it seems like you've got your hands in a lot of different things, and it seems like most, if not all, of the companies that you're involved with are very successful.
We did another company, actually.
I'm sorry?
We did miss another company.
Oh, let's hear it.
The East Coast Championships.
Yes, the big competition out on the East Coast. And is that Boston area, right?
Yeah, it's in the Boston area. It's a January. It's a single event competition that we run an online qualifier for, and it's basically an off season for the CrossFit athletes event that they can come to, and it's kind of a best of the best off season competition. It's not for the masses. It's just the elite of the elite. It's just a 2-day competition.
Yeah, got it. And you started that yourself, and obviously now you have people working with you to help make that happen?
Yep, I have a great team working with me. Yep, it's something we're really proud of.
Cool. Yeah, I was keeping up with it earlier this year for sure, and I don't want to get too deep into that and get sidetracked too much. But is that something that is actually profitable as a business, through sponsors and everything?
It is, yeah. We've been profitable the last 2 years.
Cool. That's great. I know from my personal experience, I've put on a lot of BMX bike riding events and talked to event organizers, and everybody says it's a struggle. So the fact that you can build that up to something that the athletes love and the fans love and the companies love enough to make it profitable for you is amazing. So with that said, with that kind of success, that leads good into this question. So again, Jordan, the guy that connected us, he told me a quick story that he said one of the guys that you've worked with in some capacity through a different company told him as a photographer, if Ben hired you as a photographer, you must be the best because everything that Ben touches is gold. So if he hires you, then you're my guy also, and he wanted to hire him. So why do you think it is that people perceive you in this way as kind of, having that Midas touch?
That's flattering. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. That's really nice to hear. I think if there's something to it, it's that I don't want to get involved in something unless I can be the best at it. I don't want to just coach a team to try and get them to the CrossFit Games. I want to coach a team and try and win it. I don't want to open up an affiliate just to open one up. I want to open up and try to be the best affiliate in the world. I don't want to run a competition just to run a competition. I want to run a competition and be outside the CrossFit Games, the very best premier event in the world. So I think if anything else, it's something as simple as the standards I've set for myself and my team. I don't want to settle for just to do something just to do it.
So
one of the things my dad taught me, I can remember the time I was raking leaves at our Cape house, and he, I was like, I'm done. And he's like, there's still leaves everywhere. I'm like, yeah, I'm done. Like, he's like, if you're gonna do a job and you're gonna do it, you might as well do it all the way. And it's like, it doesn't take that much more effort, and you're so much more satisfied if you do it full speed all the way, totally, completely, everything. So if you're gonna do a job, don't do it half-ass.
That answered my follow-up question then, because I was gonna ask, where that drive and motivation comes from, and it sounds like it was just instilled in you as a young kid through your family and stuff.
Probably.
So what do you think in business is your specialty? Is it kind of the marketing? Is it the ideas? Is it the execution? Is it just that mindset that you bring to the business and kind of, pass on to everybody else around you?
I think the value I add to this company I'm a part of is my knowledge and insight into the CrossFit community. And that's why people want to have me as part of their team on those other businesses, that I have a real insight, and I've been around the CrossFit community for a long time, so I bring some value there. In terms of the companies that I run, I think it's probably that the drive towards excellence. One of the big sayings is just pursue excellence. Excellence is not. It's not something it's something we repeatedly do. Excellence is a habit. It's not something, it's not a one-off thing. It's, so I'd say it was those two things: my insight into the CrossFit world, and then kind of this drive for excellence.
Got it. So with being involved in so many different things, how do you divide up your time? Can you sort of help me envision your pie chart of where your time is spent?
Yeah, actually, on my wall right next to me, I have a list of all the different roles I have in my life. So everything from being a son, a husband, a father, a business owner, a coach, a mentor. I've kind of listed out all those different roles, and I have 13 that I think are really valuable to me. And I've written down a goal for each one of those and actual steps on how to achieve each one of those goals. From there, I divide up my day, and I have certain days in terms of like what times I should be home, so I'm not shortcoming my family is getting the short end of the stick, and I have scheduled vacations, and it's as nice and organized as that sounds, it's always a constant struggle. It's something that's not sunshine and rainbows, and it's not. I don't have a perfect pie chart. I don't have everything figured out. I struggle with that like everybody else does. I'm always trying to find more time, and when I'm trying to find more time, it's more time with my family, and it's hard, but it's also something that's where I thrive. I do much better being busy than I do not being busy. It's if I don't have stuff to do, I kind of I want to be creating, I want to be making things, I want to be doing stuff, so it works well with my personality.
Yeah. Again, I'll take a quick little sidestep and tell a story. I was at kind of a personal development seminar this past weekend, and the speaker said something that really hit close to me when you're trying to prioritize that time in your life, and he specifically wanted to prioritize more with his kids and his family and stuff, which I don't have that at this point, but he said that in order to do that, he had to specifically schedule a day where he can devote to his kids and, not have the phone there, and, not have his wife there and just be a dad time. time. And I kind of took that and I was like, I need to do that just for, say, calling my family or FaceTiming with my niece, or, setting a date night with my girlfriend, that we're going to like really spend that quality time together. Because if these are priorities in your life, you need to make them a priority, just like you make your business endeavors a priority and stuff. So I think that's really cool that you have that board there. I would love if you could maybe take a snapshot and I could post that on the blog with this.
I've read a lot of Stephen Covey, and his saying is put first things first, which means you never put. And what happens is a lot of people, he calls it things that are urgent versus important.
Yep.
Urgent things are like pressing, they're in your face, they're deadline driven. Whereas important things are bigger picture. It's like core values, it's family, it's mission statements, it's growth opportunities. And what most people do is they kind of try to put out one fire and then put out the next fire and put out the next fire. And when you do that, you really are foregoing all the important things in your life for the urgent ones. I also heard a quote which I loved. This is kind of recent, and it's which is, imagine you're juggling a handful of balls, and each ball has a label on it. Each ball represents something in your life. One of them is work, one of them is integrity, one is your family, one is friends, and one is health. Everyone's trying to constantly juggle all those balls. What you should realize is that all of those balls are made of glass, except work. Work, if you drop it, it will bounce back. If you drop any of the other balls, they can shatter or crack. There could be you can't drop health, integrity, family, or friends. Work, it'll come back. It'll always be there. That ball is rubber, and it'll bounce back.
Amazing, man. Right now, I've got a smile on my face because I say it just about every episode. This is why I started a podcast, because I want to have these kind of conversations, because this kind of stuff just motivates the hell out of me, and I love to be able to share that with other people. So going back to your specific kind of time management system, again, I would love to see kind of how you chart it out on the board. But aside from that whiteboard next to your desk, what other specific stuff do you do? Do you use like a calendar on your phone or on the computer? How do you specifically schedule it out? Like, paint me a picture so that, say, if somebody else wanted to replicate your system, they'd understand how to do that.
Yeah, I don't think it's. I use Google Calendar. I schedule out the week in advance, and I have things that don't get moved, like weekly meetings with staff, or for example, like Wednesdays, I come home at 2:30 every Wednesday. So I have that for my family. And that doesn't get moved. And there's, days the times that I coach my class, and days that those don't get moved. But I don't think it's the calendar that creates success. I think it's the priority system, So the communication with my staff and family, and making sure I have the time in front of my members, coaching them, those are the priorities. And those things are things that go in there and don't get moved. Everything else can kind of fill in the blanks.
Got it. So as you're kind of building up your team, you've got these different businesses and companies, and you're not running them alone anymore. So as you were building up your team of kind of colleagues and coworkers and people to help you out on all these things, what did that look like in the different businesses? And I know that's a very kind of broad and open-ended question. I'm not quite sure what answer might come of it, but as somebody that has worked by myself a lot, and I'm just now recently starting to try to partner up with people on different businesses and projects I'm doing, I'm interested to see how you added people to your teams. I look for good people, not people that are going to fill positions. So I think the saying is, get the right people on the bus and then put them in the right seats. So when you have a chance to hire or team up with somebody that's great, I think that's the way you do it. I don't think you like try and fill skill sets for positions. It's kind of like the way the Patriots draft. They don't look for a tight end. They just take the best available player. It's the same type of thing. It's like you have a chance to get someone that's super talented on your team. That's the way to do it. And there's really kind of two hypothetical tests I use for that. The first one is, ask yourself if the person cares. And caring is like this sunshine and rainbow, positive thinky, soft word, but caring makes all the difference in the world. Do they care about you? Do they care about themselves? Are they driven? Are they passionate? Are they care about other people? Do they care about their work ethic? All those different levels of caring makes a big difference. And it sounds hard to judge, but I don't think it actually is. And the second test is what I call the car ride test is, could you hypothetically take a 4-hour car ride with this person, you driving and them riding shotgun, no radio, and the two of you guys have a good time? Because if you can't have a 4-hour car ride with that person and enjoy it, it's not somebody you want to work with for the rest of your life. It's
So are they cool and do they care? It's kind of the real litmus test for whether they can come on the team or not.
That's awesome, man. So good. Do you sidestep and question again? I'm about to switch gears to coaching and programming and stuff, but do you do that same type of test with your potential athletes that maybe want to hire you? Like, have you turned down athletes in the past that you just think, I don't think I can mesh well with them and work well with them?
Yes. Most of them are not turned down for that reason, though. I only work with 3 athletes at a time.
Okay.
So the majority of them are turned away because I've reached my cap, my quota. So if an athlete retires or isn't working with me for whatever reason, and I have room for another one, I try to vet them as best as possible. And it's something that going forward, I'll do more and more. It's in the past, it was I knew this person through reputation, and it seems like they'd be a good fit. Maybe I have them come and visit the gym for a while, and they train with us for a day or 2. Going forward, every end of the CrossFit Games season is like CrossFit New Year's, and you reevaluate everything.
Mm-hmm.
I've spent, kind of like you said, like, when does that new process start? It's always going on. That's one of the things I was thinking about during this last Games run-up season, is how I would bring on new athletes again, and what I would ask of them and require of them, and what kind of traits and who I would be looking for. I think that I might even go seek them out, where in the past I've always waited for them to come to me.
Yeah, got it. So last little bit business question here. What are one of the 2 of the most common mistakes that you would see a gym owner make in this business?
In our business specifically, being in CrossFit, it's certainly that they try to run their business like all other businesses. We are a super unique entity inside CrossFit. We don't run our businesses the way that Ford and Verizon and McDonald's and all those companies do. They basically, their job is to get people in the door. And what happens from there is their job is to get people in the door, and that's the revenue stream. It's the same model as the Globo Gym, the regular health clubs. The job of health clubs is to sell memberships. Our job, because our business structure is so different, we charge way too much for that business structure to work. We have to deliver results. So the biggest mistake people make is thinking that they run their business the same way that the Globo gyms do or that big business does, and we don't. We're purely on a relationship base. Our business is relationships. Our business is not even getting people 6-packs or 30 pull-ups or off diabetes medication. Our business is to develop strong relationships with our athletes and our members. That's by far and away the number one thing I see that people use a mistake, and it gets exemplified. It gets kind of demonstrated. You can see it when people focus on advertising. If a gym is advertising, they are by default. You only have so many resources: time, energy, and money. If you're going to spend that time, energy, and money on people that aren't in your gym, advertising, you're throwing messages out to the universe, by default, you can't be spending it on your own members. And that is kind of like the litmus test for, do they care about their members or not, to me.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So kind of switching gears to coaching now, I'll ask a similar question as a good segue here. So what mistakes do you see coaches make specifically in the CrossFit gym? And this doesn't relate to business. This is more on the coaching side.
Yep. I think that they get too far away from CrossFit. Now, someone inside CrossFit might get that, but what I mean by that is there's a lot of facets to our sport. We do weightlifting, Olympic lifting, the slow lift power lifts. We do gymnastics, everything from literally walking on your hands, to bar work and ring work. And then we do all sorts of different, for lack of a better term, like cardiovascular stuff: running, rowing, jump ropes, jumping on boxes. The heart of what we do is couplets and triplets in short, high-intensity power domains, meaning 2 movements back-to-back. That's a couplet. 2 movements back-to-back for 5 minutes all-out effort. And I think that people get caught, or triplets, in 3 movements. People get pulled away into the specialty worlds, and they end up spending too much focus on Olympic lifting, or too much focus on these other fancy EMOM type workouts, or too much time. So EMOM means every minute on the minute. Too much time on a different sort of protocol, specialty accessory work. where they're doing a lot of, scap retraction, positioning type work. The heart of what we do, for competitions is CrossFit. And strange as it sounds, I think the fault that most people are doing is getting away from CrossFit.
Yeah. And me being kind of in the industry a little bit, I'm going to guess that is because competition is becoming so popular and people are trying to build up kind of super athletes out of ordinary people. Is that sort of on the right track? Is that why you're saying that a little bit, you think?
Yeah, I think people they're going down towards the roads of they want to differentiate. So a coach wants to be different. How do they become different? Well, it's not by doing really nice, beautifully elegant programs because that shows up on CrossFit.com every day. Everybody knows that. The way that they can be different and they can create their own little niche is I'm way into accessory lifts. I am the guy that instead of doing Helen on today, what we're going to do is we're going to do all these, rear delt flies and this sort of hip extension bridge movement and all this, and they're missing what creates 80% of the fitness comes from that 20%, that little kind of like couplets and triplets, really powerfully programmed.
Yep. Got it. So you mentioned that you only work with 3 athletes one-on-one at any given time. Which are those 3 athletes currently? Or had they been, I guess, for this past season?
Yeah. This past season, Michelle Latondra, Matt Fraser, and Katrin Davidsdottir.
Got it. So a very powerful trio there. So kind of backtracking a little bit into your coaching history, Jordan also told me that you were coaching since you were very young, practically a kid, and he said to get you to tell me the story of your earliest coaching experience, because he said it was a good story. So I'm not sure what that means. I don't even know if you know what it means, but he said you have a good story.
Jordan knows stories about me I don't even know. That's great.
All right. So is that true that you've been coaching since you were pretty much a kid?
Yeah, so maybe he's just talking about my first coaching job, which was when I was about 12 years old. I started a baseball camp for kids. So for kids, I was 12. Kids younger than me. It was basically like I would take 7 and 8-year-olds. I had a 7-year-old brother. I'd take all of his friends, take them to the ball field at 4 o'clock at night during the summer, and teach them how to play baseball.
Wow. That's amazing, man. So you've definitely had that entrepreneurial spirit in you since the beginning. Now, did these kids pay you? Did they give you candy bars in return?
The parents paid me. I think it was probably like $4 or $5 for an hour and a half.
Oh, cool, man. So what are some of the misconceptions that people might have about you and what you do as a coach?
I think maybe one of the misconceptions is that what I put up on the competitor's blog, what I put up there for free every day, is drastically different than what I'm doing with my one-on-one athletes. It's not. What I have those one-on-one athletes do is very, very similar to what I'm putting up for everybody. A lot of weeks it might be the exact same. Now the differences are I might just dial things in a little bit in terms of strengths and weaknesses for those individuals, but it's not much different than what I'm doing for free for everybody. If there's something that is, maybe the misconception is too that it's the programming that gets people super fit. And I hate saying that because it's like programming is a big part of what I do as a coach, but I don't believe it is. I think it's a necessary thing and it is important, but it is not the differentiating factor. It is not the thing that's going to take someone from a fringe regional athlete to the top of the games. What is going to do that is everything else a coach does. I think people underestimate the role of coach, especially inside of CrossFit. What we do is we get athletes to perform at their top potential. That has very little to do with programming, a lot more to do with getting the athletes in the right mindset for training and for competition. And that's my biggest role as a coach. My biggest role as a coach is not to get people to move better. It is, right? I got to teach them. If I'm a football coach, I got to teach people how to get out of their three-point stance and drive low and get underneath a blocker. But even more so is how to bring the right mentality to every single play. And that's what I do as a coach.
So the mental game of CrossFit is absolutely huge. I'm sure they'll drop before this interview does. I interviewed Katrin Davidsdottir, who is one of your athletes who just won the CrossFit Games, and Noah Olson, who got 8th place at the Games last 2 years. And I talked to both of them quite a bit about the mental aspect of CrossFit. And you're talking about it now as well as from a coaching perspective. So what do you do as a coach to help condition their minds and help them, just become more resilient in their mindsets?
Katryn's here right now at our gym. She's actually working out outside right now, and she was at my house last night. She's staying with us. And over dinner, we were talking about this. And we both agreed that any girl inside the top 10 could have won the games this year if they had the mental mindset, fortitude, and strength that she did. And that was the differentiating factor. So I agree with you. I believe that more so this year than any other year, particularly on the girls' side. Now, in the past years, like on the guy side, maybe like Rich, maybe like he might have been a step ahead of people physically, but is he a step ahead of physically, or is it just, again, his mental drive that's allowing him to achieve those results?
Right.
I think the mental capacity is so big. The first thing I ask my athletes to do is to recognize the difference between what they have control over and what they don't have control over. And once you do that as an athlete, your focus gets way narrowed down. And if you have laser-light focus as an athlete, especially these guys on the world-class level, they can achieve amazing things. The fault most athletes have is they get distracted by things that they don't have control over. And distractions take away from potential. So an example of that would be people get concerned with everything from at the games, what place they're in, what heat assignment they're in, the equipment that they're using, what the next workout's going to be, the last event that they didn't, the weather, the time between events, did they get their food? All those things are outside their control. If they just focus on what they have control over, which comes down to like 5 things, 5 things as an individual athlete you want to focus on, and during competition, all of a sudden the world gets a whole lot simpler and those distractions go away. Mm-hmm. That's when people focus and perform at their peak.
Wow. Do you recommend, I know Katryn and actually Noah both told me about a book that they read that was super helpful. Do you recommend that your athletes kind of read some of these sports psychology books and stuff like that?
I think it's all very valuable. The more that they know, the better. Because all these sports psychology books, they all talk about the same stuff. Mm-hmm. It's all about eliminating distractions, focusing on what you can. Your best effort is the only thing that matters. It doesn't matter what your competition is doing, and confidence.
Do you have a book that you would recommend our readers check out if they want to look into that?
I'm reading right now. It's How Champions Think.
How Champions Think. Do you know the author of that? I'll link that in the show notes.
I don't have the author. I don't know the author offhand.
Okay, no worries. I'm writing it down right now, and I will link to that in the show notes on the website so everybody can check that out. So let's see. Going back to my notes. Okay, so the process of you programming for comp training and your athletes and stuff, what does that look like as far as the process? I know you said it's kind of an ongoing thing, and we've talked a bit already about how it can go day by day. But let's talk about like the actual workouts. Like, do you pick an intended stimulus first and then go backwards about which muscle groups you want to target? Do you think of a rep scheme that works well and then work back from there?
Yep. So in the big macro sense, while I might program day to day, or most likely more often than not, it's week to week, I know kind of what I want to throw in the week. There's a template for the year. Mm-hmm. So I know what we're going to be approaching, what we're going to be doing for certain sections of the year. And then from there, I know on Mondays what we're going to be doing, and on Tuesdays what we're going to be doing. I know we're doing Wednesdays, Thursdays, and so on. Every day has a template. So from there, it almost becomes plug and play.
Got it.
You want to have a template, but at the same time, you also purposely want to stray away from that template. Mm-hmm. It's almost like you want if you're driving from Boston to San Francisco, you know you have to stay on Route 90 the whole way, but if you stay on Route 90, that sucks. It's so boring. You want to go off into these little towns, you want to experience things, you want to come up, but you always got to get back on Route 90. That's how you get to your final destination. You need to take these deviations, but you always got to be able to see the road and get back to the road. So that's why we have a template. From there, in terms of programming day to day, I start with what I call macro movements. So if it's going to be an upper body, let's say we need to get a workout in that has a lower body push and an upper body push. Then from there, well, if it's going to be a lower body push, we have the choice of should it be a back squat, should it be a front squat, should it be an air squat. You have your choice of so many different things. Should it be a lunge? All those are lower body pushing movements. Thruster. And then from there, if we want an upper body push, well, should it be push presses, should it be bench press, should it be jerk, should it be push-ups, ring dips, and from there, that's the micro movement. So now you have a macro, you want lower body and upper body pushing. Then from there, we go micro movements. Okay, let's decide it's going to be back squats and push-ups. From there, now you've got your micro movements. The next thing you want to do is think about your all together at the same time. You can't have one without the other. Your rep scheme your overall volume, your time domain, and your loading. So let's say you want it to be relatively short, you want it to be a 5-minute, you want it to be a moderate weight thing, and you want it to be, from there, you also have to decide the reps team. So maybe we'll go like a 21-15-9 of back squats at 225 and double the push-ups, 42, 30, 18. All the while you're creating that, the whole idea is what you just said exactly, is you never create any of it without the idea of the stimulus. Mm-hmm. The idea of the stimulus drives the whole thing. Do you want this to be a heavy grind? Should this be a sprint? Should this be something that they can just kind of like chip away at, keep going? You're never losing sight of the stimulus, and when you're doing it, you're always thinking about, so if we're going to be that workout, 259 of the let's make it even simpler, 259, 225 back squat burpee. Okay, so you know what that stimulus is going to look like. It's going to be the top athletes are going to try to get that straight on the back squat. The burpees are just going to make a super high gasser type workout. It's going to be something, the idea behind that workout is going to be don't stop. Mm-hmm. And the top athletes will be able to do that. Very different than if we did 21-15-9 back squat at 275 and burpee muscle ups. Those are the same movement, same thing, but the stimulus gets completely changed. Or the same thing if we kept the weight and the movement the same, so 225 back squat burpee, but it was 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 with burpee box jumps. So all of it, the stimulus is kind of like the overlying umbrella, and you're filling up all these little things inside of that umbrella.
Got it. So you recently, before the games, had training grounds. Can you tell us about that and what the intention was behind that, and kind of how that affected the athletes that were there?
Yep. So there was two things. I was a guest coach at CrossFit at Reebok training grounds, and then I did my own games ready training camp for my athletes here at CrossFit New England. The training grounds one, I was a guest presenter. I went in there, talked to them a little mindset, and put the guys through a workout. That was a one-day thing. The training camp that we ran at CrossFit New England was, we had some athletes here for, like Katrin, who was here for 6 weeks, and we had some athletes that were here for 3 weeks and some for 2 and so on. Some amazing athletes, and we get those guys together and they do a focused games prep environment. Everyone's games gets elevated, and when that happens, it also exposes weaknesses, and maybe not weaknesses, but they're in their gyms, dominating the world. They're the best in the world. Then one of the key points here is they get to experience what it's like to be in competition and not be the leader, which is what they're going to see when they get to the games. They got to experience finishing a workout and coming in second to last, and then be able to know that that's okay. That's still competitive. I'm still strong. I'm still fit. There's nothing wrong with my program. There's nothing wrong with my lead up. There's nothing wrong with my fitness. That's just where I am. And then turning it around and still giving 100% towards that next workout.
Got it. So there was obviously lots of athletes that weren't your direct athletes that you coach on a regular basis. I know Brooke Ince was out there, Elijah Muhammad. I saw these people and the videos about them and everything. So how does that work kind of, with their own coaches and with you being a coach for Katrin and stuff like that?
Yep. So Brooke is one of my athletes from Noble. So the shoe company I have, she's one of our sponsored athletes. So that's why we wanted her here. Easy Muhammad is kind of inside that same circle, if you want to. His agent is my agent, and we kind of work together. So we're in the same kind of circle as that as well. So there's everyone that came is kind of in the Bergeron circle of trust.
Got it. Okay, cool. That makes sense for sure. So let's talk about a little bit of the kind of business aspect behind the coaching and stuff. So the 3 athletes that you coach, do they pay you as their coach? Is that how that works? And then you just give away the other information for free on that comp training, and then you do, more tailored like online coaching? Give me the economics behind you as a coach, sort of.
So the individual coaches pay. They pay a monthly fee for coaching. For that, I give them daily specific program for them, similar to the comp train, but dialed in for them. The comp train itself is a free program I give out to the world. From there, we're also creating something similar to what I've done for these elite athletes, which is individualized comp train programming for them. That's something we're actually rolling out next week. So people can sign up for, the masses can now sign up for me as their coach the same way I've done it for these other athletes. The big differentiator there is that they're going to be getting the programming that these guys get, the same level, same all that. What I do for these guys, kind of like I talked about earlier, which is a big differentiator, is everything else that comes with coaching. The mindset, I go to these guys, I go to their regionals, I'm their coach at regionals, they come here for training camps and all the rest. So that is something separate from what the comp training one-on-one remote programming will have.
Right. So with the remote programming, will you still do some kind of like Skype or FaceTime calls on a regular basis with the athletes?
We're still formulating what exactly it's going to look like, and that's why we haven't launched it yet.
Got it. Okay. Let's see. I'm going through my notes here. I have a question that you kind of already asked. I was going to ask if you even need to market your coaching at this point, but if you only have 3 main athletes, then I guess you don't really need to do that anymore. So for the comp train stuff, you're getting a ton of hits on that. So I guess you don't really need to market that at this point when you start, when you launch the new rollout. So again, we've kind of answered the questions already.
I can actually speak to that a little bit, though. I think that inside the world of marketing, there's a misconception. Marketing is an umbrella statement for 2 different things, and people inside of that is advertising and branding. And those, to me, are 2 exclusive and I believe actually mutually exclusive things. I talked about it a little bit before. If you're advertising, you're putting your resources, time, energy, and money into things that have literally zero effect on your product or service. Nobody benefits from advertising. Where if you go to branding is just the exact opposite. Branding is the sum of everything you do. It's the feel, it's the vibe, it's creating an excellent product or service, it's everything. So I am a big believer in branding. I'm not a big believer in advertising.
Very interesting. That's a cool perspective, so thank you. Last question about coaching before we get to the quick hits is what advice would you give to an athlete trying to look for a coach that's going to help take them to the next level?
Find somebody that you feel like you can trust intuitively and completely. Trust is the basis of every relationship, whether you're talking about a spouse, family, employees, coach, or athlete. It's all based on trust. If you don't trust that person with everything, literally, like if they told you to do anything, you would have to do it. And if you don't trust them enough to do that, it's not the relationship.
Very cool. So we're going to move on to the quick hit section of this podcast, and anybody that's listening knows this already. These are questions that I ask each one of the guests because I'm fascinated by how different people answer these types of questions. So first off, how do you decompress?
When I have time to waste, I like to waste it.
And what does that wasting look like? Is that TV, internet?
No, definitely not the internet. I'll get sucked into it and I'll start working again. Is most likely it's sitting in the backyard or with the kids, maybe on the back porch, with my wife, or sitting on the couch watching TV doing nothing.
Perfect. If there was a movie made about your life, what would be the obstacle or the hardship that you had to overcome in order to be the person you are today, or in order to kind of achieve your success?
Probably fear of public speaking.
Interesting. Yeah, you don't seem to struggle with that during this conversation. So tell me a little bit about that.
I like everybody. I was, the saying is that people are more scared of presenting to a group than they are of death.
Mm-hmm.
That's the number one fear. And I wasn't immune to that. It's something I had to overcome, and I worked hard at. And I didn't like it when I first started doing it, but it's something I've grown to enjoy and love.
What were some of the steps that you took to overcome that?
Alcohol. I don't know. I think experience.
Mm-hmm.
I think doing it more, and I think one of the things that kept me from being confident in it when I was younger, for example, like giving a report in college. You have to present in front of a class or in front of your classmates. I wasn't a great student. So I think that because I wasn't a great student, I didn't put the time into it. Because I didn't put the time into it, I wasn't sure of what I was saying. Because I wasn't sure what I was saying, I was more nervous. And now it's like I'm very confident in what I present now. I'm very confident in what I do. And that brings another level of familiarity and ease in front of presenting in front of people.
Right. So don't let me put words in your mouth here. it seems like the stuff that you're talking about these days is really, really valuable to people. And maybe this is kind of exactly what you just said, but do you think that knowing that you're providing such a valuable content and words to people that you're sharing now, do you think that helps with that confidence as well?
Yeah. At the same time, when I first started I worked for CrossFit headquarters and did level 1 seminar staff. I did those presentations. And I know how valuable that information is. When I first started doing those, just the fact I knew it was valuable wasn't enough to make me feel confident.
Right.
It wasn't until I did 5, 6, 7 presentations and I felt like I knew the material myself that I started to feel more comfortable with it.
Okay, got it. Have you had any mentors throughout your life? You're definitely a mentor to a lot of people, including Katrin. So have you had any mentors throughout your life?
My dad is definitely a mentor for me. It's somebody I feel 100% confident in terms of bouncing ideas off of or asking opinions. And then on a less personal note, Greg Glassman. He's been the way he kind of formulated CrossFit in terms of this virtuoso, this focusing on the simple aspects of things. Don't get caught off on the fancy in terms of the pursuit of excellence. Run your business for your clients, all that type of stuff. Like, he's been from afar, and I know him personally, but I don't bounce ideas off of him. His methods and approach to business is definitely something I look up to and think about often.
Is your dad still with us, and is he still providing that type of role in your life to these days?
He is. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, somebody cool. I talk to quite often.
Very cool. When do you feel like you get hit by inspiration or ideas the most?
When I'm working out.
Got it.
Like when I'm training, when I'm on a run, during workouts is when I think about programming for other people. Mm-hmm. And when my mind's going, especially if it's kind of like a mindless workout, not like a Fran type workout where you kind of shut off. Mm-hmm. That, and then also, as I'm lying in bed, I actually dream a lot about business and I dream about coaching a lot, and I wake up with ideas.
Do you do kind of the jot down notes next to your bed or speak into your phone, like the voice recorder when you're in bed kind of thing?
That's a very good idea. I should start doing that.
Do you have, all right, last one here. Do you have either a favorite quote or maybe some words you live by or a favorite piece of advice someone's ever given you? And I've actually already written down a couple of quotes that you said. You've been dropping knowledge bombs like crazy over here, but any one that comes to you right now? Yeah,
excellence is not an act. It's something we repeatedly do. So excellence is a habit, Aristotle. And I probably butchered that really badly. But it's the idea is that excellence is not like something you do once. It's something you constantly do every single day. And from that, I've tried to establish good habits. I think habits are what separate successful from non-successful. You are just what you keep on doing. So if you keep on doing good things, it's that 1% rule. If you do good things 1% better all the time, in a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, that's hundreds and thousands of percent better than if you did it the other way.
Great. I love it. Excellence is a habit. So thanks, Ben. We're going to wrap up here. I've got to thank you big time. I guess I say this all the time on the show, but these kind of conversations are why I started a podcast. And I don't know if you can tell by my facial expression, but I've been sitting here just hanging on every word you're saying, man. I've really, really enjoyed listening to you talk, and I think people are going to love this episode. So thank you.
Appreciate it.
So before we go, do you want to plug your social networks? Of course, I'll link all this stuff. I've got links to all your businesses in the show notes as well. But anything else you want to plug or any social networks that you should tell people to connect with you on?
Just do one. Instagram, Ben Bergeron.
Easy. Love it. Cool. So that'll be on the show notes, and you guys can go follow him. Also, for the show notes, please go to theexpansionprojectpodcast.com. There's going to be lots of stuff linked from this episode, of course, all his businesses and stuff. Also, on the right side of the page on the website, I do have a few affiliate links, so you guys can click over there. One of them is NutriSumma.com. You can use the promo code FATTONY1 for 20% off all your supplements and protein. You guys can follow me on my social networks at FatTonyBMX. And of course, please check out my newest project called BreakParallel.com. It is a dope place where people can go to find all the entertainment, videos, photos, and breaking news in the CrossFit and functional fitness world. So check that out, BreakParallel.com. Until next time, signing off. Thank you guys so much for listening. And Ben, thank you for joining me today. I really, really appreciate it.